Many years ago, I did science and law, so I've got an honors in pure mathematics. And the only way I've been using my maths degree has been in all the construction law cases that I've been working on, because I have to look at all the technical reports and all the damages calculations, etc. But then after more than 20 years as a barrister, I realized that I don't have perfect memory. I can't remember the well over 100,000 cases that I've read. I can't remember every advice that I've written. And I wanted a way of being able to retrieve that information instantly. That was how the idea started. But then my co-founder at the time, we're no longer together, said that we had to solve the legal research problem first, which is great. So we've gone in to solve that really difficult problem that nobody else has. And everything is reasoned from first principles. We look at the cases and the legislation only. We don't rely at all on commentary or secondary publications. Everything is reasoned from first principles. And because I work in the law and I know how important it is to the courts that there's no black box, that all the reasoning is revealed and all the sources are revealed, that in every single research report that we produce, the black box is open. So step by step, the reasoning steps that my model goes through in answering the question is revealed right at the end of the research report. And as well, we reveal all the sources that we've looked at. And the answers as well are footnoted and hyperlinked to the pinpoint reference. So when we have the model moving, the report will come up on the file viewer on the left, and then the file viewer on the right will have the source documents, and then you can click on the pinpoint references and it'll take you exactly to the source material so that you can check and verify that the source material matches up with what we're saying is the source in the report. To deliver legal tech, you really have to embody the legal brain into the solution. So after he left, I designed the whole legal architecture and I wrote every single algorithm, and I worked really closely with the developers to implement every solution, every feature of our model. And so I've written well over 120 pages of algorithms, and I've discovered that the developers don't quite realize the subtlety and the complexity in our algorithms, and so they try to simplify it. And then every feature we've tried to implement, it doesn't work. And after a while I go, what's going on here? So I call for a meeting and I asked them to show me the code. And I look at the code and I go, well, you've just stripped away my entire legal brain out of this algorithm. So no wonder it doesn't work. And so we've done that every single time now, but at least now everyone accepts that nobody's allowed to change my algorithms because they're the key. They're the key and our secret sauce to MyAI delivering the accuracy and the zero hallucinations that we deliver in our outputs. So 2 weeks ago, I was in Melbourne. I was doing a round and meeting up with all the lawyers and law firms. And one lawyer said to me, can't you prepare a contract review suite for me? For all of you. And I said, okay, well, that's like in stage 4 or 5 of our product requirements document. And then he said, no, but can't you do it? And I go from first principles. And he goes, yes. I go, well, I suppose I could, because everything we've done is from first principles. So my one algorithm will work across all subject matter areas of law. And so I said, okay, I'll go back to the hotel this afternoon. I'll write the algorithms for you. So I went and I then spoke to one of the number one senior counsel in Australia. And he said to me, Laina, you have to understand that in contract review, the most important thing is that when you are reading in the defined terms and you're reading in all the nested defined terms, often it ends up in a lot of ambiguity, and that's how I've managed to get really rich. And so whatever solution you deliver, you have to work out whether the defined terms, when they're read into the contract, lead to any circularity or ambiguities, etc. And then on top of that, I needed to do a risk and legal analysis of the contract. And then the lawyer also said to me he also wanted a contract summary. So I I delivered a suite of 4 documents. And so, was it just a few days ago? I've been vetted by a publisher and they want me to get involved in a book. And so they sent me the publishing agreement and I said to them, okay, well, I need to run it through MyAI Law. And they said to me, but it's really standard. And I go, okay, well, I still need to run it through MyAI Law. And it was 2 pages of very closely typed 3 columns of documents. So yesterday I ran it through MyAI Law. I ran the deep review, which is for risk and legal, very technical. And I also ran the more outward-facing report, which is designed for in-house counsel. So it picks up the 3 key risks and it goes through exactly the same analysis, but the way it's drafted is just more digestible for the in-house counsel. So I sent both reports to the publisher and it identified inherently that the publishing agreement was very much skewed in favor of the publisher, that it allowed the publisher to change the content at will, and it could do everything at its discretion, and basically I didn't have a say in it. So what the report did was it identified for every key risk area the underlying cases that said why this was a problem and why it was a risk, and then they suggested the alternative wording for every single clause that is suggested was a problem. So I sent the report back to the publisher and the publisher came back and goes, wow, this is a really powerful tool. And so I said, I want all these suggested amendments to the clauses to be incorporated into our agreement. And so they did that. They incorporated it all in and they sent it back to me last night. And this morning I went through it, I checked it and I verified it. You know, I am a lawyer. So I went through and I made all the amendments read neatly and everything was properly interfaced into the amendment. And I sent it all back to them and they came back and they said, we've accepted all your suggestions. So what I ended up doing in this was I made the contract much fairer. And so that everything they had promised me would actually became a contractual term, and they couldn't just change the content on me without consultation with me. And if the changes led to the fact that I was no longer getting the value that I bargained for, that I could terminate the contract and get a full refund. So legal professionals at the moment, I think, believe that superintelligence is already here. Superintelligence is not here. So that is quite a way away. And, you know, language models work on probabilities and inference. So the language models don't actually understand at all anything that it's reading. It's only predicting what the next set of words is likely to be when it's presented with a first set of words. So it doesn't actually understand. And when you feel that it's being very empathetic, everything is that is just cloning behavior on just what it has read, because it's been trained on everything on the internet. So it's just parroting that behavior. It doesn't really understand. It doesn't really feel anything. It's just giving a really good impression that it kind of understands everything you say. So the legal model, the LegalTech model, really is only as good as the algorithms that a lawyer may have put into it. If you don't have the legal brain that I have put into MyAI Law, then all you have is basically ChatGPT or Gemini, etc. So I can tell you this for a fact, that when we first developed the model with my developers, before we had put in any of my algorithms, it was hallucinating. It wasn't providing the most authoritative case in response to the legal research question. It just was behaving the way ChatGPT might behave. And so, you know, then we started putting in all my algorithms into it. And then, you know, after a lot of troubleshooting, because it takes quite a bit of work to get it to behave the way you want it to, then it started behaving the way I want it to behave, which is, you know, to the level of a really good barrister, a PhD level barrister who's really experienced in research, where we are returning the key cases and key authorities on every single issue, and then we're reasoning through it, and then we're generating a report that is accurate and has no hallucinations. Well, what's really worrying is the number of legal practitioners in Australia and in America who are getting into trouble because they are using ChatGPT to do their research. They get the reports out, they don't check the work, they don't check whether the cases actually exist, and then they're using it as part of their legal submissions and submitting it to court. And obviously this is very misleading to the court because, you're an officer of the court and you're supposed to only give the court work that you can back. And so I just find it really weird that you would hope that partners of law firms, for example, shouldn't be anyway, trusting the work of the junior lawyer without checking it. But they are willing to check a machine that has just been trained on probabilities and inference, who doesn't actually understand anything that it's reading, and is willing to take the output from these models and use it without checking in their legal work, which is just amazing. Because if you actually looked at the terms and conditions of OpenAI and any of those language models, they specifically say that it's not to be used for law or medicine. I think in 5 years, I really see this. I see that MyAI Law will become just a standard tool that all lawyers will have in the jurisdictions that I will be selling my product to, and that lawyers will have to, from the moment they graduate from university, will be able to be productive from day one, that all the grind, all the horrible work that we all had to go to when we were junior lawyers are taken away because the AI will do it for them. But they then have to bring the human judgment and their strategy and their legal brain to the work. And so all the menial work will go away. And as one lawyer said to me, it will take away all the work that junior lawyers hate doing. But it will rely on the firms being willing to train up these lawyers right from the beginning. And it will also need the universities to shift the way they educate these lawyers so that when they come out of the universities, they're ready to be productive.